everyone. Thanks so much for joining. We're slowly letting everyone in. So we will be starting in a minute. And as I told the presenters before they joined, we record these meetings just for the presentation aspects, so we have those available. But we cut out the discussion part just because this is a community practice and we want everyone to freely speak and learn from each other. So just wanted to give everyone a heads up on that end. But anyways, Erin, I'm actually going to turn it over to you. If you want to begin by introducing our two speakers that we have online, and then we can go from there.
Okay, yeah, good morning, everybody. My sweet life in Chicago with fast internet is over. We are back in Mexico, and the video where we're at the moment doesn't seem to be cooperating. So saludos de Mitla, Oaxaca in Mexico. And I think, yeah, we've got 3 of the 4 presenters. One of the 4 couldn't make it today, which they let us know yesterday. But Dorcas with African Storybook, Carrie with Room to Read, and Paul and John with SIL are going to present today. And yeah, I'm really excited to hear. We're talking about the topic of quality and how organizations approach it, how that fits into their strategy of what their organization is trying to do. So I thought we could just go in order with first African Storybook, then Room to Read, then SIL. Past meetings, we've typically gone for about 90 minutes. But if the presenters stick to about a 5 to 7 minute presentation, and then we have maybe 20 minutes discussion. M Education Alliance didn't have as much to discuss as in previous meetings, so we might end closer to the top of the hour or a little bit after. So yeah, I will hand it over to you, Dorcas.
Turn on my video just in case it eats into it. So I'll go straight to the presentation. And please let me know if I'm sharing.
Yes, you are. We can see you.
Okay, thanks. Okay, so I'm talking about the approach we take for African Storybook. And for us, we call it quality assurance as in QA. And we have incorporated it into our story development, and especially where we have no capacity for local language. So when we are developing our storybooks and we are working with people whose language we don't have any capacity, so we ensure that at the story development level, we have the quality assurance built into it so that they quality assure the local language while we take care of the English, and then we align the two, making sure that they speak to each other. And our quality assurance is not just about what we want, but what the target audience needs. And in some cases, what the audience considers appropriate, while keeping in mind what global perspectives are all about, keeping in mind the global standards. And in some cases, we've had to take the storybooks again and go through them to add another layer of quality assurance for a particular Ministry of Education, depending on what they need. So they are there, we have checked them, but then they could undergo another level of quality assurance. So for us, we see it as a give and take. So when we are running a story writing workshop, we come in with criteria to follow to help us guide the writers, but they also bring in their own criteria, their own standards, what they consider appropriate for their needs. So then we work together, and then we find packaging that content in a way that it's generally acceptable and meaningful. And as we do this, we try not to encourage them to perpetuate negative or retrogressive, traditions or customs or things that may not be generally, advancing, the rights of all people in their communities. quality assurance also for us is about how we present the language. The language is not just language as English and Kiswahili or any other language, but what do they accept as the language in the context? And it's about the content, it's about the characters and images put together so that they can convey the message of the story while we are thinking about the child who is our target of the story. So we are mindful of children's rights, we are mindful of children's feelings as we develop our storybooks, and so we make this part of our quality assurance process. And it's not only about the product, but about how effectively that product is being used. So we try to give support, especially to the people we work with, like our partners, and in a special way, the champions that we work with across sub-Saharan Africa. We give them the support so that they can be innovative, so that it's not just, repeating the usual old methods, but be innovative and make it as interesting as possible to at least result in the desired change. And then sometimes we have helped them to capture what they consider a very good, an exemplary lesson, for example. And we on our website, we have published this under use. We call them stories of use. So where people have been very innovative and have used the storybooks in a way that we really feel needs to be shared with other people, we have published these under stories of use on the website. Now the last slide is about how do we help people find these storybooks that we consider that have gone through the quality assurance process. So how do we signal this on the website? We put a lot of effort in quality assurance for one reason, so that people can be confident in using them and know that they're using a product that is quality and not just anything that is being put there without care. So under read on the website, we have 4 categories of storybooks. And the first category is about the ones that we have approved. That means they have actually undergone the quality checks, and we signal them as ASB approved. Then the second category is about storybooks that we have put together as collections. They are also being checked, so they have been put in a collection based either on a theme or a level to help people use them as a collection. Now, we only showcase the storybooks that have been approved on the landing page. So when you go onto the website, you'll find that the most recent ones will be the ones that have been checked, and the ones that were the most recently to be published. Now you'll see a little I, and then if you click on that, it tells you ASB approved means they were checked by African Storybook or our partners. So we are confident that they're as good as they can be. And then when we do translation or adapt storybooks, we only translate or adapt from storybooks that have been quality assured. We don't, when you click on translate or adapt, only those that have been quality assured and marked ASB approved would appear. In the past, we hadn't done this, and people are translating from one rubbish story into another language, and then we discovered really they are not usable. So we restricted that, and now you can only translate from quality assured storybooks. We have given editing rights to people in specific language groups whose capacity we don't have. So these people can actually do this on the website. And then we do the final check just to make sure the text is rendering right and that the text is not blocked together. We can introduce page breaks, and then we mark them as ASB approved. And lastly, we do frequently clean the website to make sure there are no duplicates. People can easily publish sometimes. So we just weed out all the duplicates. Sometimes we look at a story and it's just only a page, just a cover page. So it's not complete and the person was just trying out. So we unpublish those, and also we unpublish what we consider inappropriate content. So we have in the recent past, when we had our story maker, which enables people to create their own storybooks using the maker offline and online. So we've come across some content with images that are not appropriate for children. So we basically just unpublish, and then it's not seen, can only be seen by us, but can't be seen by the general public. So that's briefly about our quality assurance process, and we can answer any other questions later as we go on. Thank you.
Thank you, Dorcas. Thank you very much. So think of what questions you'd like to ask or comments you'd like to make, but we're going to continue on. And now we have a care room to read.
Hi. Thanks. So Room to Read's online platform, Literacy Cloud, has over 2,100 books in pages, and also some resources like videos for book creators, teachers, and kids. So I'm going to talk a little bit about our quality assurance, both in creating the for Literacy Cloud. So we create our storybooks with local authors and illustrators, and we do workshops to build their capacity. A lot of the countries we work with don't have a big children's book industry, so we have a lot of people who are maybe experienced artists. So we'll have workshops. We also consider things similar to what African Storybook was saying about the target audience and things that are appropriate in the context. We think about diversity and different things like that. The writers and illustrators have opportunities to work with mentors. Sometimes that's within Room to Read staff. Sometimes we have some external folks or external editors who might come in. When we can, we do field testing and get the kids' reactions. How do they like it? What do they think is confusing, so that we can make some improvements before we go into final design and copy editing. Sometimes local governments have some book standards or guidelines that we follow. We've worked with a couple of governments on creating those. And some countries require government approval, which unfortunately doesn't always improve quality, but we'll work with what they're asking and what we're looking to happy medium that can be approved and still serve our purposes with kids. Literacy Cloud has always been a curated platform. We don't put all. Some books are better than others, and especially as we go back into some of our older books, some of them are fantastic, some of them we decide not to upload. And then we're starting to push that decision more into the hands of our country offices. So there'll be some guidance on quality that they'll go through before they decide which books they want to upload. On the platform, we use we're powered by Storyweavers, the same backend, and it's been really great for us to be able to upload a lot of books in a short period of time. We accelerated our plans for how many languages we were uploading during 2020 and 2021. So we've now got lots of books, but Storyweaver has built-in features where you're able to translate. So all of the books have to be uploaded one illustration at a time, and the text has to be entered for each page. So it was a bit of a time-consuming process. We've been thinking about how we create our books for print. Almost all the books on Literacy Cloud are also available in print. So we ended up having two versions. We had the stories would look one way in print and another way on Literacy Cloud, because Literacy Cloud separates that illustration and the text. So they're not integrated, and you're not getting the same visual experience when you're reading it as you are when you're reading the version that is a hard copy. We work really hard on the design of our books. It's one of the features that we focus on to really make the books the equals of, books that you might get here. So we decided that we'd like the kids to be able to have an online experience that's similar to the hard copy experience, rather than having a digital version with that separate art and text. So we're currently in the process of changing our Literacy Cloud viewer so that we can upload a PDF, which will mean that we're able to include the text that's integrated with the illustrations, and we'll be able to view double spreads, which we weren't able to do. I have an example of this if I can figure out where to share my screen.
Carrie, there should be a button at the bottom of the screen that says share screen.
Thank you. Yeah, great. I found that, and then I'm just like looking for the right one. There it is. Okay, so this is an example of the new viewer. So in the previous way that we were uploading it, you'd have each of these pages essentially a separate page, and then something like this, which is a double. The way the text kind of wraps around and all those things wouldn't be features that we would be able to have. So we're working on creating this new way of uploading, which will also be much faster, which is also something that we're excited about. And so they'll be able to look at the book and have the same visual things that they would be getting in paper. And a lot of our books, are in our school libraries in the hard copy version. But as we've done such fast expansion of translations between books that were created in one language and in one country that we've translated for another over the last couple of years to put onto Literacy Cloud, there are some cases where the book does have a print version, but not in that language. So being able to create a version that may only be on Literacy Cloud, but still has that print look will be something that, that may be the only access that kids in that language might have to that book, at least at the moment. It's always possible that it'll be so popular we'll decide we should really have print versions of this. Yeah, so that is our general process, both for the creation of the books as well as the selection and uploading onto Literacy Cloud. So happy to take questions when we reach. I'm going to try to figure out how to unshare it.
Great. Thank you so much, Carrie, for that presentation. And we look forward to asking questions after our last presenter. So we have Paul from SIL who will be rounding us out, and then we'll open it up to questions. So Paul, the floor is yours. And Paul, you're muted.
I think I've got what I want to do here. So I'm presenting on behalf of myself and John Hatton, who is the developer of Bloom and the team lead. He lives in Colorado, so it's a bit early over there. So we developed this together and we're going to share with you. To talk about our quality processor and the Bloom library in a similar way that some of the others have talked about. The Bloom editor itself is a desktop, laptop program running on Windows and Linux for book creation. And there's a number of ways that we've designed Bloom editor that will help to foster quality, things that people can use in order to have books that are more consistent and is that we designed the program with a great deal of simplicity, which means that the native speakers, the people for whom that is their first language, are able to do the authoring, which means we don't have one person writing and handing off to a non-speaker of that language to be doing the computer work, possibly introducing errors in the process. We also make extensive use of book and page templates and styles in order to have greater consistency across an entire book. I believe Bloom is still unique in having dedicated tools for writing decodable and leveled text. And since those are two types of text which are important for early grade reading, we feel that those help ensure that people, when they are writing or when they're checking things, can be sure that the books truly are decodable at the proper stage where the child is at, and that the text is leveled in certain parameters. It doesn't do all parameters of leveling, but certainly things that have to do with text density, sentence length, and so forth. We also have accessible book tools. So if you're going to make books for the hearing impaired, it's important that they have all their images described, important that you have audio for everything, and that the book can pass the appropriate EPUB standards. And do an audio of all text, including the image descriptions, and then built-in checking tools in order to spot any problems. So we feel like if you're going to do accessible EPUBs, that Bloom provides tools for the book creator to use and help ensure that their books really meet the standards. The library is where people can share their books, and it's a crowdsourced library of free books, much like all the other ones. We're currently just over 11,000 books in the library, and we've just crossed 450 languages represented in it. And you find books from development projects, education projects. You find them from book publishers, including some we've been able to adapt from the folks at African Storybook, a few from Room to Read. Their books with open licenses so that we could put them into our library as well. And then many books that are by individual authors that want to share what they have created. So our primary focus is on minority or non-dominant languages. As you can see from our language count, we really are trying to facilitate the creation of literature in those languages, but we also have lots of content from dominant languages, whether world languages or national languages. It might be helpful to talk about what Bloom Library is not. For one thing, it's not SIL's book repository. SIL has books in Bloom Library, but it isn't, the library doesn't consist of our content. It is a sharing platform where people can share the content they have created. As a result, it really is the organizations and authors who set their quality standards. And though, like has been mentioned, I believe by Dorcas, we do take down books that are really bad for various reasons, just as she described. But by and large, people are creating books in different settings for different purposes with different levels of sophistication and capability. And we basically invite them to develop their quality assurance process. We work with them as we can, and they are creating and sharing books that they feel meet the needs of their particular audience. And flag recommended or approved books. We do like to highlight selected books that we feel are particularly do a particularly good job of developing their stories, illustrating them, and so forth. We'd like to do that more. It's mostly a staffing issue that we can't do that more. And hopefully in the future we'll be able to do more of that highlighting and recommending. But we're not currently looking at the same type of approval of books that, like African Storybook, has a very strong process in quality assurance in their ASB approved books. We don't currently anticipate having a similar process. Finally, we recognize that our organizations and authors vary widely, and the resources available to them, their ability, their capability in publishing. And we want to respect that and allow people to create what makes sense to them, for their audience, for their organization, for their project. And we recognize that we have content from many parts of the world where there are different tastes, you might say, different opinions about quality and about what makes a good book. And we're also recognize that we have large languages like English or French or Spanish and many other ones that you would but we also have scores of smaller or non-dominant languages where people just aren't going to have the same level of capability as in the other languages. So you will see a wide variation in what we externally or objectively might say would consider quality. But just want to highlight that some of the books that we might think, or all of us might look at as low quality, many times they represent the first steps that communities take to create literature. Many of the languages we try to serve genuinely have little to no literature at all. And we want to encourage them to take these, even if they're beginning steps towards creating literature in their own language. And so we're reluctant. We in the kind of the broader early grade reading might hold and tell them their books don't measure up. So we want to support and work with people, particularly in non-dominant languages, to just begin to build a literature. And certainly as time goes by and they develop greater confidence and ability, we would hope that they would in fact be doing books that were increasingly of higher quality, but to create and share the literature that makes sense to them. And so our approach to quality on the platform is somewhat different from our colleagues. Not created as a storybook, as a children's book platform, but as simply a sharing platform. And because of the early grade reading emphasis, we've had many opportunities to support those who are creating books for early grade reading particularly. And so we're glad to support that. We're very happy to, but we also recognize as create books in their own language. And so there's a lot more variety, I would say, in the topics and kinds of issues covered in our library compared to other ones. That's what I have to share. As with the others, glad to respond to questions when we move into our discussion time.